For many years as U.S. Senator, I've supported the Hyde Amendment, but circumstances have changed. I've been working through the final details of my health care plan, like others in this race, and I've been struggling with the problems that Hyde now presents. I can't justify leaving millions of women without access to the care they need and the ability to exercise their constitutionally protected right.
Joe Biden was for the amendment that bans federal funding for abortions, even those for low-income people on Medicaid, until he was against it and announced it yesterday. That follows the former vice president taking a lot of heat for saying he supported the Hyde Amendment. He was the only Democrat in the field to take that position in support of it. But Biden continues to lead every national poll we've seen by double digits. He's also leading the pack in Iowa, the site of the caucuses that are the first nominating contest of the race. Bernie Sanders continues to remain in second place, but Pete Buttigieg is in third, and he's the only other candidate reaching a double-digit level of support. Same deal in the first primary state, New Hampshire. Biden, Bernie, and Mayor Pete in the lead, and they're the only ones in double digits there. Joining us now to talk all things 2020, Democratic strategist Jason Nichols. Jason, it seems like we've hit the first real stress test for Joe Biden as a candidate and as a frontrunner. His foot flat on the Hyde Amendment, which bans federal funding for abortions. Biden entered this campaign as the mainstream moderate and the adult in the field, and yet he gets his first major policy clash with progressives, and he abandons a stance he's had for 45 years.
I think it was actually a smart move. I think we're a long ways away. We've got many debates in the future. I think that he will be able to distance himself from even the 45-year history he has with the Hyde Amendment. And I think he made the smart decision. You cannot win this race without progressives. You're going to need them on your side. We learned that in 2016. The party needs to be stronger together. And I think he realizes that this was not a fight that was worth having and having this thorn in his side, particularly with some of the moves that the Trump administration is making and, of course, around the country with the heartbeat bills.
Couldn't you read this, though, as a sign of weakness from Biden? I mean, if this keeps happening with him on positions, his policy agenda is going to look like, Elizabeth Warren's by the time we get to the primaries.
And for many of us, I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing. And I think that he's going to stick to the things that he's passionate about, the things that are going to give people health care, and the things that are going to create jobs and build up our economy and build up our environment and have a safer environment. I think that he still can make the argument that he is the only candidate who can beat Trump, regardless, honestly, of the policy positions that he takes. He has to appease progressives, or else he won't make it out of the primary, or he'll be so damaged when he comes out of the primary that he'll lose. So I think he's making a strategic decision here. Simone Sanders is a really smart strategist, and I think he knows that this was not a fight that he wanted to have this early.
Although, Biden really hasn't been tested on the trail just yet. The abortion issue came after more accusations of plagiarism. His campaign apparently lifted some material on climate change to his website. We've got the debates coming up in a few weeks. Whoever the other 9 Democrats are on the stage with him, he's going to be a big target. I think the next few weeks could be particularly dangerous for Joe Biden. I'm wondering if you agree.
I think they're all important. This time is going to be really important for Biden and for all the other candidates. I agree 100% that he is going to be the target. He is the front runner. But if you remember, going back to 2016 in the Republican primary, which was really large, Donald Trump was the target, and Donald Trump ended up winning. So I think, of course, we're talking about 2 different personalities here, but I think Joe Biden is somebody that people trust and people are comfortable with. And it's his race to lose. He has to really fumble the ball to let one of these other candidates, many of whom, we're talking about maybe 3 other people that people think are viable. All the other candidates are playing serious catch up. So I think their attacks really won't even register. If he starts getting hammered by Elizabeth Warren or by Buttigieg or by Kamala Harris, those are things that he's going to have to fend off. And I think they all have things in their records that make it, not so difficult for him.
Talk about Bernie Sanders for a second. His numbers have really stagnated. They've been stuck in the high teens since Joe Biden entered the race. Has he hit a ceiling? Is this the maximum amount of the Democratic primary audience that he can get supporting him?
I think Bernie Sanders, his time, honestly, was 2016. I've been saying that from the very beginning. I think that, there are other candidates and even the mainstream candidates that are taking his positions. So he's going to have a difficult time. He also has been getting caught up in some of the gotcha questions from the right that he was not prepared for. And that's actually stagnated a lot of his support. I think he's always going to have his hardcore supporters. I think if he's able to get the AOC endorsement, that will make a difference, and he will certainly be boosted by that. But I don't suspect that he will be the nominee. I think he has an uphill climb, and he just does not have the support among moderate Democrats that he's going to need.
It sounds like if I asked you to take stock and become an investor either in Bernie or Elizabeth Warren's campaign, it sounds like you'd be buying Warren and selling Bernie.
I would. I think Elizabeth Warren is obviously not as high on people's radar right now. But, and of course, I would have said something different after the DNA test. But I think people are realizing that that was nonsense. It wasn't really important. And she's got good policy prescriptions. And she's somewhere in the middle between a Biden and a Bernie. And I think that that is a good position to be in. I also think that people are ready for female leadership. You look at somewhere like Pakistan has had female leadership, and the United States of America has not. I think that's unacceptable. And I think that people are ready to allow a well-qualified woman go in and challenge for the presidency.
I agree with you on that. Let me move on to Beto O'Rourke. It may be time to either put out an APB on him or get him on the back of a milk carton. He hasn't been above 5% in a poll since March. He tried to reboot his campaign and do more media appearances. Nothing seems to be working. He was always sort of a substance will come later kind of candidate. Is he about out of time?
Yeah, well, I think so. I mean, we've been waiting for a long time, and it was funny. I was speaking to a conservative person from the Heritage Foundation, and I really recall her saying, we're not afraid of Beto. We think he's an empty suit. And thus far, he has not really shown something that is going to inspire the nation. He's not the candidate that people thought he was. He's not the Obama 2008. He just doesn't seem to have it just yet, or maybe the field is different and people are looking for different things, but whatever he's doing is not resonating. I think he's saying a lot of the right things, as many candidates are. I think his positions are good. I think he's going into the right media and talking to the right people, although he hasn't been on this show with you, Andrew. But other than that, I think he's doing a really good job. He's just not the guy.
The opposite of Beto might be Pete Buttigieg. If we thought his spike in the polls was a blip, we were wrong. He's been holding steady. He's even doing better in Iowa and New Hampshire than he does nationally. And I suspect he's going to do well in the debates. But in the end, he's still a 37-year-old mayor of a city with 102,000 people. What do you make, what should we make of his continuing to defy expectations?
I think he's going to hit a wall. I honestly do. I think that Buttigieg is going to, he's trying now to reach out to African-American voters. I don't think that that's going to work, honestly. I think he's a really smart guy, but I think people are going to figure out that what he's talking about in terms of health care, where he says Medicare for all who want it, that's honestly not being honest. You either have to do single payer, a hybridized single payer, or not. And I think that he will get called out by people like Bernie Sanders on that. Because he's not really on the level there. I think he's going to hit a wall at a certain point. He is an attractive candidate because he's smart, because he's young. He's very charismatic. And even I was excited about what he may bring to the table. But I really think he's also going to hit a wall very soon.
Finally, Jason, 3 weeks from today will be the day after the first two Democratic debates. If you're a bottom-tier candidate, if you're a Yang or a Moulton or a Williamson or a de Blasio or a Gabbard or a Ryan or a Delaney or a Hickenlooper or a Bullock, and I could go on and on, but I'm out of breath, you need to make a name for yourself. How do you think those debates are going to go? What kind of ammunition are they going to be lobbing? Is it just emptying the tank? Or, what do we expect from that bottom group?
Well, I think that they've got to go all out. They've got to go throw it on the wall and say what it is they stand for. Hope to get something to stick, some sort of sound bite that resonates with a large portion of America. It's really going to be difficult. And there are people out there, Tulsi Gabbard is a friend of mine, and I really like her as a person. People like that are going to really, really need to say something that it resonates. And also, I've always said it, and I think it's pretty much well known that African Americans are the core of the Democratic Party. You're going to have to attract them. And I'm not so sure that Hickenlooper or Delaney or any of them have anything to offer those people that's going to move them to support them over someone whose names that they know, like Biden or Warren or even Bernie Sanders.
Great insight as always. Democratic strategist Jason Nichols. Jason, always appreciate a few minutes.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Up next, doing time, but not wasting their time. We'll show you how inmates at Sing Sing prison are getting a college education while still behind bars. We attended graduation day to help tell their story.